Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Whoa. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to our live Texans-Colts postgame show. Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network, presented by FanDuel. And boy, oh boy, we got a good one for you. Joining me, contributor and the Bullpen podcast co-host, Tom Chavarria. Hopefully we'll get Houston radio legend Jayson Braddock. He should be joining us, we hope. That was the plan. And hey, you YouTube viewers, you are also a part of the conversation. So hit us with questions and comments. And I don't know about you, Tom, but this one feels like a monumental Texans win in their history. Where does this rank up for you as far as valuable wins in Texans history?
I don't know. I'm going to take the Kobe Bryant approach and be like, job's not done. Like, I want the monumental victory to be like an AFC championship game, something like that. I don't want it to be a week 14 Kansas City Chiefs game in Arrowhead. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is up there. It's definitely up there. But for me, I got to reserve that spot for something a little bit more prestigious. Tonight's pour is TX whiskey because the Houston Texans are the team in Texas. I will hear no different. The Cowboys are not no longer that title. I think it's the Texans, and this defense proved it out.
Boy, Jayson, 6 years it's been since the Texans beat the Chiefs. It feels pretty monumental because not just up your playoff odds from maybe 50% if you lose the game to 92%, at least according to how they figured it on NBC. It just, that is a big deal. But also, you could have just put the stake in the heart of the Chiefs and taken them out of the equation come the playoffs and Patrick Mahomes.
100%. I think you had everybody in the country, at least the AFC, rooting along with the Texans in this game because you don't want to see the Chiefs there in the playoffs. But, I mean, let's go back to what this season has been. You start off 0-3. Then you get back to 3-5, and things look dire at that point because you've got a 3-game slate where you got to take on the Buffalo Bills and last year's MVP. Then you have to go on the road to Indy, and who was the number one offense. Then you have to go on the road to Arrowhead, which has been a nightmare for you and everybody else for the most part. And the Chiefs get 10 days to prepare for you with added rest. I'm saying if you go 2-3 during that stretch, it's a home run. They won all 3 of those games. They've gone 8-2 since losing on September 21st. September 21st, when they lost to Jacksonville, went 0-3. Since then, they've only lost 2 games in the last 10. That was an 8-point loss to the Seahawks, who we all know how good they are, and a 3-point loss at home against the Broncos, who are the 1 seed in the AFC, and you lost that game by 3 with a backup quarterback coming off the bench cold when CJ Stroud got knocked out of the game there at the beginning of the second quarter. So I don't think it can be overstated how big this run and how impressive it's been for the Texans.
I also want to throw out there to everybody that's watching and listening, how big do you think it is? If you're going live, if we're live here, we want to hear from you. If not, put it in the YouTube comments. Definitely want to hear what you guys think. And just let's take a bow to this defense. Oh my God, what a performance. The offense literally disappears in the second half. Just an incredible performance to hold Patrick Mahomes, Tom, to 14 for 33, 160 yards, 3 interceptions, 0 touchdowns. What a performance.
Yeah, it's all they've done over the last, better part of a month. It's just take top tier quarterbacks who are playing at a high level and make them look very average. Patrick Mahomes normally doesn't struggle like this. I don't even know the last 3 interception game Patrick Mahomes had. I can't tell you. And I watch a lot of football. I honestly don't know when he's struggled so much and ran for his life so much. I mean, I think he had 50 yards rushing or something like that. And it's like, normally he's buying time to hit these home runs, and there was nothing to be had.
Statement game, says Golden Scholar. He says, I'm not going to complain about anything. They won the game. That's what matters. Just extraordinary stuff from the Texans to pull this one out. You can say it wasn't pretty. That's the way the Texans play. It's not pretty, but they did it. And that's what matters. We've talked about all these games that they could not win. At the end of the game, when they had to make a play, they made plays over and over and over again in this one. I'm going to throw some shade a little bit at Andy Reid later on because I think there was some mistakes made by their coach more than the Texans coach, although can't let the Texans coach off the hook for a couple of things as well. But we'll talk about some of the key points. Chiefs' first possession is a 3-and-out right out of the chute. The Chiefs lose their backup left tackle. Texans' first possession after a couple of first downs. Chris Jones badly beats Ed Ingram on 3rd and 7. CJ throws it away. More Chris Jones later in this game. So after a Chiefs first down, the Texans get off the field on 3rd down when Nico knocks down a Mahomes pass, turning it into an 11-yard loss when Mahomes catches it. Texans get the ball back. And what do I love on first down? God, I wanted to see some more of this in this game. The play action pass, because it works. It always seems to work, or most of the time it does anyway. Stroud and Nico, 46 yards to the 21. Nico had his guy beat, 120 yards in the first half for Nico. So it could have been a touchdown if CJ didn't underthrow it or maybe threw it sooner. And after a classic 2025 illegal motion penalty cost the Texans a Schultz touchdown pass, CJ scrambles, finds Higgins, who nearly gets a first down on a great dive. But on 4th and short, the Texans keep up the tradition of shooting themselves in the foot. Somehow Ursary lines up in the neutral zone. Or does he, Tom? If he did, you needed a microscope to see it. Collinsworth on the broadcast was so pumped to get on the refs for anything that he thought was a bad officiating call against the Chiefs. But come on, what am I missing there? What were they talking about?
I think that was a horrible play all the way around. I don't know the exact Chiefs defender, but he had his entire helmet in the neutral zone as well. And it was interesting to see like Collinsworth and Tirico kind of tap dance around it because clearly they had a bias that they were trying not to, I guess they were trying not to hide it. I don't know. It felt like they were just very blatant about how much this is Kansas City and we've seen them and we love them. And, you know, this is a true contender and all the yada, yada. And it was like, they're just a team, you know, and the Texans went out there and did what they had to do. And on that play, I hated it. I hated it because I knew you would say that. I knew you would come in here and go, the Texans shot themselves in the foot. And I'm like, if both of them are in the neutral zone, it's on the defense, is it not?
You have no faith in me, do you, Tom?
I just knew where you were coming from.
No, you didn't because you were wrong. Jason, what did you think about that call?
Yeah, I mean, like y'all both mentioned, you've got Chris Jones who's leaning his helmet over in the neutral zone. Excuse me. You got Ariante Ursary who's got his hand in the neutral zone. So it's both guys there. So I mean, whether it's offsetting or however you want to rule it there, but you definitely don't just rule it solely against the Texans. So you know, there's some questionable flags early in this game, but the second half the flags slowed down and they let them play some football.
Yeah, the refs wanted some face time in this game. There was no doubt. I just thought there was a lot of times where it wasn't worth throwing a flag in this game. Basically, the Texans missed two TD chances because the underthrow by Nico, the Schultz negated touchdown. The refs also caught. I mean, it was just a whole mess of missed opportunities for the Texans right there. Fairbairn kicks the field goal thanks to a nice hold, by the way, by Tommy Townsend on an iffy snap. Chiefs' next possession shut down because of my boy, Tommy Togiai. The one benefit of the Tim Settle injury, Jason, is my boy. Tommy T gets some extra PT.
Yeah, I mean, for most of the game, he had double the amount of tackles than anyone else on the team. He led the team in tackles. He had a sack. He had double-digit tackles for a defensive tackle. That's insane to hear. And I mean, we're not talking about Jeffrey Simmons or Chris Jones. We're talking about Tommy Togiai stepping up in a game where they had to have him. I mean, we all know you're limited without Tim Settle, him going down with the injury, and Togiai took that on his back, and he stepped up and he showed up big time early and often.
Speaking of the refs, Texans catch a break, third down holding call on Nico's defender. We can debate that, but forget about all that, Tom. How about Stroud's scramble and throw to Nico for 51 yards? Three guys chasing CJ. There's going to be more of that as the game goes along, but just speak to that one.
I don't know if there's a stat or whatever, but whatever the scramble drill stat is, he's got to be leading it, because I feel like you get one of these every 4 games where it's like he's dead to rights. He's got 2 dudes breathing down his neck. He throws across his body, which is the cardinal sin of any quarterback ever. And he finds Nico or name your wide receiver open on some kind of peel back thing for a huge gain. And he looks like a magician. At this point, I'm not surprised at it anymore. I feel like it's going to happen because he's done it so many times.
Texans in the red zone at this point. Time for a penalty. Of course, Trent Brown jumps immediately, moves it back to the 12. But on 3rd and goal, Jayson, Stroud finds a wide open Woody Marks. Do you think that fake Woody Marks block on Nick Bolton was designed, or was that Marks just reading it and doing it?
I'm going to guess it's designed, because if he's normally supposed to chip him, he's going to get a piece of them there. But he kind of sold it, then got out open in there. And then again, kudos to CJ Stroud. You talked about that other throw. He has the pocket mobility where he slides up to create enough space and a window to be able to get it to Marks without it being batted or him being taken down. And then it's a walk in for Marks from there. So again, big play by CJ Stroud there with that. It's not always just scrambling outside the pocket. A lot of times it's that pocket mobility as well, and he showed it. He showed it perfectly on that touchdown play.
After the TD, Jalen Pitre, the amazing interception. Tom, I'll let you go at it. Wax poetic about that Pitre pick. Great stuff.
Gotta love Jalen Pitre, man. This guy was a guy that fans wanted off this team like a year and a half ago. He couldn't do anything right. He was getting cooked left and right. Fast forward, he's got this new star safety role, and all he does is make plays. Pitre doing what he's done all season long. I feel like if we're not voting for him for the Pro Bowl, we should be, because I don't know what this defense is without him. I know when he was hurt, it definitely took a step back. So huge credit to Pitre on that play. I mean, change the game.
All right, let's see what happens with the Pitre play. But before we do, just a quick reminder. Again, if you're not watching live, still want to get you in the YouTube comments. What do you think about this win? How do you feel about it? Where does it rank for you? What did you love about it? Make sure you subscribe on YouTube with notifications so you get updates on the live shows and all our content. You'll also want to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. All right, back to the action. Texans can't take advantage of the Pitre pick. Drive stalls when 2 Chief blitzes force Stroud into bad throws. The Texans D waste a perfect Tommy Townsend punt, too, down at the 1. Mahomes drives into Texans territory, but Autry and Rankins to the rescue. They combine on a 3rd down sack, and thanks to Butker for missing the field goal, hits the upright. So after that, you get a questionable Nico offensive pass interference on 1st down. CJ finds Nico on a big-time 3rd and 16 throw, though. But for some dumb reason, the Texans waste a bunch of seconds not calling a timeout before the half and not just quickly downing the ball. They make it worse with a procedure penalty. Basically, Jayson, it was like what we saw last week. It's just this weird first half clock management, end of the half stuff. I don't know what they're thinking here, but it was like, why don't you just call a timeout or just throw it into the ground? But something, you got to do something quick.
No, that's more than fair. I mean, we're seeing it happen too many times. I know in the comments we got people talking about it looks like Tony Yayo talking about the procedure penalties on offense here in week 14. 100% he hits the nail on the head there. I mean, it's too late in the season to still have these key offensive penalties at pivotal moments. And the same thing we're talking about in this regard as well. So you'd like to see it get fixed. We're too late in the season. We're in D'Amico Ryan's third year, and we're seeing it back-to-back week here in big games, and these could cost you. The Texans' defense is just so special this year that they continue to overcome it. But to overcome it, you had to have a missed field goal from Kansas City. You had to pick off Patrick Mahomes 3 times with him barely completing, 45% of his passes, if that. So, I mean, you have to be so stellar on that defensive side to overcome so much of this. And I think you are leaving points out there, especially with the way they play in the first and third quarter. It's something I said all season long. I'll have the stats a little bit later. I'll probably put on social media. But roughly, the Texans in the first quarter and the third quarter are scoring about 40 points this year, high 30s, low 40s. In the second and fourth quarter, they're hanging around 100 points. I mean, so that's not like we keep going back to it. It's week 14. The disparity in what you are in the second and fourth quarter as opposed to what you are in the first and third over 14 weeks, that's a problem. There's definitely something there that needs to be correct, and nobody's bringing it up. We're the only ones talking about this. I'm like, why is this not mentioned in the press conference? This should be something that's an easy fix. If you're not scripting the first 15 to 25 plays, and I don't care if that's offensive philosophy, change it, because you're leaving points out there. And once you get into these playoff games that you should be headed into, they could cost you and send you home. And you can't be like, oh, well, we'll fix it for 2026.
And the thing with this is, I know everybody that is like Peggy positive is like, okay, D'Amico, he won his biggest game or whatever. But like, this is an AFC that's on a tee. I mean, we see what's going on in the rest of the AFC right now. It's a disaster. Colts season is over with. It ended today. Jags, I mean, they look like garbage when they play us on offense. And that's the team in the AFC that's coming out of the AFC South. I mean, the Broncos, we might have beat them if Stroud had stayed healthy. I mean, you start looking around at the Patriots have got a second-year quarterback and an easy schedule. I mean, what about the Ravens? They just lost today, and their season's on the line in the next few weeks. And who knows if they're going to be there with Lamar, and the Bills defense looks terrible. And you saw what the Texans did I mean, this is all on a tee. This little stuff, you're going to slap yourself if you get into the playoffs and you start making these little mistakes. This type of stuff, these just basic stuff, Tom. I mean, I like you got to get this stuff right, because if you don't, this great opportunity to win the AFC, you blow it.
You're right. 100%. Both of y'all, 100% right. These things shouldn't happen. However, you also have to take into context who is happening to. On the procedure penalty that really derailed them before the half, Ariante Ursary is the guy that jumps offside. That's a rookie. You're asking this guy to deal with Chris Jones, who's an all-pro monster, who's destroying your offensive line, and asking him to be perfect. I'm not defending it. I'm just trying to make sense of it.
I'm more about the timeouts right now. I'm talking about the timeout stuff, the clock management. Like it just seems like we don't know what we're doing. And the Ursary stuff, I'm not mad at Ursary. I'm mad at they should have called timeout right there. They should have called like either that or line up and throw it in. They weren't going to throw it into the ground, and they wasted about 10 seconds just trying to line up to actually run a play. You don't care about the time at that point. You don't care about the downs at that point. You care about the time. It's the end of the first half, and you've got 35 seconds to go. The only thing that matters right there is the time on the clock.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. D'Amico had used 2 timeouts to get that time on the front side on defense. So only had 1 timeout. So if he burns that timeout, then he's got no way to stop the clock to set up for the field goal.
So that's why to the ground.
Okay, I get that. They could have spiked it. Probably something they got to fix going forward. However, if you rush to the line and the dude doesn't jump off sides, you get a playoff, and then you have the opportunity to hold on.
But you're not worried about offsides. If you go to if you say we're just going to spike it, you're just going to stand there. You don't even have to get into a real heavy course thing. He's not worried about Chris Jones if you're going to spike the ball. That's not going to be a concern.
Okay. I mean, to me, I understand calling a play and running a play versus spiking the ball and putting yourself in a bad down and distance. I understand that. You could do it the other way too. I just understand the philosophy that they were trying to employ by going, okay, we're not going to just spike the ball. We're going to run a play. We're going to go quick. We're going to go and keep the defense off so they don't have time to line up and run quick. It's just they ran off sides, so it blew that all up. Can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick. No, I agree with you, Robert, as far as, they're letting extra time tick off that could be meaningful. And I get what Tom's saying is about you've got that one timeout in your pocket. But at that point where you hit a big play and you're going to take about 20 plus seconds to get up there, I'm fine with go ahead and burn that timeout, go up there, and then you can still spike it on a future play or stuff. But you got to come out of points on that drive. But, Rob, you were talking about something else I want to make sure we put an emphasis on. I cannot think of a time dating back to 2002 where you looked at the playoffs, and you touched on this, Robert, where you look at the teams, the 1 seed, the 2 seed, and whoever, and you're like, if you're being realistic with yourself and you look at that Texans team, you're like, yeah, hopefully you get to that level, but realistically, I don't see the Texans beating them. To your point, Robert, this isn't that year. None of those teams scare you. New England, Fugazi. I'm gonna drop my Donnie Brasco, Fugazi. You know what I mean? They're a fake. They've played nobody. Denver Broncos, Fugazi. They've had a light schedule, and then it took Davis Mills coming off the bench cold after CJ leaves in the early second quarter to pull out a 3-point win. That's the 1 seed in the AFC. Look at all the rest of the teams in the playoffs are right outside it. Baltimore, Texans beat. Kansas City, Texans beat. Colts, Texans beat. Jags, Texans beat. Bills, Texans beat. Everybody ahead of you beat, except you haven't faced New England, and we touched on the Broncos, and you split with the Jaguars, and you've got the Chargers here in a couple weeks. And I mean, I would be shocked if the Chargers beat the Texans. I don't care that it's in LA. I know about the travel and all that. Kansas City just had 10 days to prep for this Texans teams with Patrick freaking Mahomes and Andy Reid. And, I mean, if it wasn't for the offense, this is a blowout. Patrick Mahomes could do nothing against this Houston Texans team. There's nobody in the AFC that scares you other than probably the Houston Texans, and you don't have to play them. You know what I mean? So I think we're in a spot I've never seen the Texans since they came into existence, to where it's realistically they're the best team in the AFC. They just have to get there and prove it. And after you pointed out, like a 92% chance of making the playoffs with this win, that is highly likely that they get there and do prove that. And if they win out, Jags lose to Denver, you win the AFC South for the 3rd time in a row, first time ever doing that. And you got a home game there as a 3 seed.
Yeah, there's more to talk about with that. We're going to get back to that, but just let's hit some of the bigger points in the second half, because one of the things that Jayson said, these terrible third quarters, terrible start, awful British Brooks special teams holding penalty leads to a 3-and-out after Stroud misses a wide open Xavier Hutchinson on 3rd down. Then Brown badly beats Kalen Bullock on a deep cross. Kareem Hunt pays it off on a 4th and 1 touchdown run. There was just breakdowns all through that. I mean, it was everywhere, special teams, defense, offense. Tom, coming out of the locker room, I don't know what's going on, but a lot of times this Texans team just comes out of the locker room flat as hell.
I agree. Totally agree. And of all the things that we talk about that, we try to assign blame, I 100% believe that's a D'Amico Ryans thing. It really is. And I don't know if Nick Caley has to call something a little differently to get them into a better place. It felt like they were very vanilla coming out, just trying to, get something going as opposed to like being aggressive. I tweeted it out. I felt like the Chiefs looked like a very desperate team and the Texans didn't. And I think that's one thing that the Texans, as they grow up, they'll show that desperation. Sometimes I look at CJ, I look at the offense, I look at some of the throws he makes, and it doesn't show conviction. Some of the times when he floats the ball, I'm like, man, put that thing on a bead and get that thing in there. And I don't know if that's okay, don't screw this up. Like, hey, we've got a good thing, I don't want to mess it up mentality that they have to change as a culture. But it's definitely something where they don't turn it on right away, whether it be to start the game or to start the second half. And then they're like, oh crap, we better get to work. And then they do. And as they mature, I think you're going to see that. Hopefully, you would hope that they would get over that.
Yeah, typically not the defense. The defense and the way that I've seen things is usually they start off the game, they might struggle. At the end of the fourth quarter, they might struggle. But in between, they're usually pretty good. It's the offense that's got to get things going. And just the British Brooks penalty. I mean, I hated that. That was just a terrible, it just set the tone really right off the bat. Texans after that, after the touchdown, they go 3 and out next possession. So now it really starts to look bad. Chris Jones, who's not been Chris Jones this year. I just want to remind Texans fans, this is not the guy this year. And somehow he finds the fountain of youth and just was a total menace. I'm going to get to the Chiefs and their defense in just a bit, but the offense gains 40 yards on the next possession, but the defense gets off the field this time. Good Pitre coverage on Kelsey on third down. But Texans go 3 and out for the third straight time. Terrible punt by Townsend after that. At this point, I'm having flashbacks. Same old Texans, folding in KC, blah, blah, blah. But Lassiter puts things a little bit back on track, makes a fantastic defensive break up in the end zone to save 4 points because Mahomes then misses an easy third down throw to force a field goal. So I don't want to forget this Kamari. I just don't want to brush by it. Great play. Right. He's going to play a factor later on. But Kamari Lassiter, I got to say, this guy coming off a week where he wasn't practicing. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't even know if he was going to take the field. And he's making big, big plays in the second half. And Jayson, one of the things that kills the Texans D, as usual, it's these QB scrambles, and we start seeing that become a problem. What's the issue with the QB scramble? Collinsworth even mentioned he thinks man coverage is opening up these QB scrambles that the Texans get beat on.
Yeah, and Mahomes has done this a lot more this year than any other year. I think his career high in rushing yards, like 62 yards, somewhere around there, and he had right at 60 rushing yards in this game. And this is about the third or fourth game this year he's had around 60 rushing yards. He led the team in rushing for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so this is something he's done well throughout this season, but there's so much you have to worry about with Patrick Mahomes. So if we're just talking about him as opposed to all the quarterbacks that have benefited from being able to run against the Texans this year, I don't put them in the same vein because I've seen Mahomes rushing for 30-plus yards, like almost about 9 of the games, I'd say he have around 28-plus rushing yards with about 3 or 4 with around 60, which are career high, around this career high for him. And so you're focusing on so much, him ad-libbing, creating on the run, and looking at so many times. So it just takes a split second to turn your back. And if he can break that pocket, then he's off and running to convert one of those downs. So I don't know if it was a major thing for Mahomes, but I would say for the longevity of the season where we've seen it, the Baker Mayfield, the 4th and 10. Where you take the victory, you take the defeat out the mouth from victory, however you want to say it. But so there's definitely been an issue going on throughout the season. So a lot of times I think you're so hyper-focused on shutting down the ad-lib that you leave a crease there that the quarterback can take off on.
I want to get you guys next thoughts on something here, and both of you on this. After that, Texans offense, 4 straight 3 and out. All right, so the Chiefs, they start sending these blitzes over and over again at this point in the game. And this is just like screwing with the Texans left and right. Tom, I'll start off with you. Like, what do you think? Where were the design screen passes to slow down the blitz? I'm like, even if they don't work perfectly, I just don't understand what it was. I mean, we would see, Stroud throw it into the ground because there was nothing there up the middle. But get around the corner, get on the edge, and just do it. Even if it doesn't work, you do it a couple of times. You show that, it should at least, pull him back or pull somebody out of the box a little bit.
For me, in that third quarter, I really felt like Steve Spagnuolo, just really outcoached Nick Haley. Like he had a huge game plan and it was just working. There was nowhere for CJ to go. There was constant pressure coming from all angles. There was no way for them to pick it up. It seemed like anytime they slid protection, Woody Marks left, Woody Marks right, Woody Marks wherever you wanted him, they had somebody coming from the opposite side. And at that point, you really just got to tip your hat to Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, that dude's been doing it for a long time. And that defense played desperate, played hungry, like their season depended on it because it did. And I wish that they would have had more check down. I don't understand, and maybe y'all can help me. Why don't they use Woody Marks in the pass game more? I feel like that is free yardage when you look at some of the best running backs in the league. All of them kill you in the pass game. All of them run some sort of a screen, some sort of a little up and in where the tight ends are. And we just don't see it from these Texans. And maybe that's a Nick Haley growth thing, because I know McVay under his tree, they used to running back a ton in the receiving game. And the Texans just don't do that. And I think that's exactly what they needed right then and there. They needed to get Woody out in space, flip him the ball, put some blockers in front of him, and that's how you beat some of that pressure, and it never came.
Or Jaylen Noel, Jason. That would work too.
Yeah, they got Jaylen Noel in there on one play. Looked like it worked for him. To Tom's point, they had a little stretch early in the year before CJ got injured where they're targeting Woody about 4 to 5 times. And I think that's that sweet spot for Woody Marks where you're using them, like Tom talked about other running backs around the league, like Devon Achane. I'm not saying they're the same player, but you got Devon Achane. You're giving that guy about 6 targets a game. So Woody Marks should definitely be seeing about 4 to 7 targets a game. And when you got them pinning their ears back, blitzing and all that, I know you're trying to keep Marks in more for protection, but slide them out, slip them out a couple times and make them slow down and think about it once they start getting beat, because Marks is the type that you get him out on that perimeter one-on-one, he can bust off a 15, 25-yard play a couple times a game. And I think that makes that defense kind of dial it back a little bit, and you needed to do something there in that third quarter because, as you mentioned, Robert, the Texans offense couldn't do anything to even move the chains. I'm not talking about a consistent long drive. They couldn't even move the chains at all in that third quarter.
I thought Stroud overall handled that fairly well. There might have been some other things that he could do and that we don't know about, but overall, I just thought Stroud made a terrible situation a slightly better situation. It could have been sacks, it could have been turnovers. He did not turn the ball over. That was huge in this one. So let's move to the fourth quarter because you get the banged up Laster again, gigantic play. He intercepts Mahomes, but it works more as a punt, really. After a Stroud sack, a great throw by CJ on third down to Higgins. He makes a superb extra effort to barely get the first down, but on 3rd and 2, later, the handoff to Jaylen Noel stuffed. And guys, here's where Aziz's bad tackling helps out the Texans because the Chiefs get the ball back. Mahomes 1 yard away from a first down on the next drive because Aziz misses him on 4 yards away from the first down. So we sort of suckered Reed into going for it on 4th down. The Terminator forces a bad Mahomes throw, putting the Texans in field goal range at that point. Stroud, yet another huge scramble and throw to Higgins on 3rd down. And Tom, you know where I'm going now. It's my boy, everybody's favorite Texan, Ogunbowale gets in the game when thank God Woody Marks got hurt because we finally figured out what we needed in the red zone. We needed Dari all along, Tom. What were we thinking?
I mean, I don't know, man. I saw the play and I thought of all the Dari haters because I mean they're out there. He shouldn't be on the roster. He's absolutely the worst Texan. Why is he a captain? And then he scores possibly the biggest touchdown of the game because the running game had not been able to crease anything. I mean, let me rephrase that. Woody had done a lot from 20 to 20, but inside the 20, when things got tough, he just wasn't finding a lot of little holes to get through. And then Dari makes a great run and gets in the box. And I want to say it should have been Woody. It should have been Woody because Woody earned that. Woody had played a phenomenal game. But I think that's why you carry these running backs is so that you have that change of pace. And once Chubb went down, it had to be Dare. And luckily he found a way to get in the end zone.
Jayson, we got to talk to Mulligetta. We need to get an extension, obviously, because the only guy that can really make the big plays at the end of a Chiefs win is Dare Ogunbowale. So let's get on that. We work on his extension before we work on Stroud's extension with Mulligetta. I mean, how does this work?
I expected a fumble there. I expected a fumble there. Put me in the Dari hater group, whatever we want to label it. I guess I'm the chief of the fan club because for the last few years, I'm like, how does this guy keep sticking around? And like you said, Tom, you nailed it perfectly. I mean, he comes up and becomes the hero there and shuts up everybody, including myself, because that's a big time play, key play in the game. But I don't want to just quickly brush over that Andy Reid decision, going for it. 10-10 game. Texans offense cannot move the ball whatsoever. If Nick Caley would have made that decision for the Texans, I don't know what they're doing in Kansas City because Andy Reid, Hall of Fame head coach, they're going to love him. You give him a pass a little bit, being aggressive, all that. If Nick Caley did that 10-10 game where the other team offense can't move the ball at all and you give them field goal range on a 4th and 1, I don't give a damn Patrick Mahomes is a Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the best to ever do it. It's 10-10. The opposing offense cannot move the ball. You're going against the top defense in the NFL, and you can't move the ball well either. And you're going to give them field position? That was the gift of the game right there. Andy Reid doing that, my jaw dropped. I had no words to speak. I did not expect that decision from Andy Reid or any head coach in the NFL. Stupid. I can't understate it. Completely stupid decision, and that cost the Chiefs the game more than anything else.
Who was it that said it early in the comments that D'Amico got out coached? It was Brian, and still came out with the win. You cannot sit here and dog D'Amico when he's not doing that. You know what I mean? Like you just can't.
To your point, I would say for the most part, Spags put it on Kaylee, like you mentioned. D'Amico, like Robert mentioned, again, poor management of the clock and the urgency leading into halftime. But to your point, Tom, that decision trumps everything else. I mean, it quiets all other talking points because you can factor in everything D'Amico and Kaylee did or didn't do in this game, and none of it all combined can even measure a tenth of how bad that decision was by Andy Reid. That's not hindsight. When he's deciding going for it, I'm like, this is a hard count. This is 99.9% a hard count. Yeah, I mean, there's no. I'm befuddled, and I never say the word befuddled. I didn't even know I had that in my vocabulary. That's how shocked I was.
And to be fair, it's not just Andy. Dan Campbell does it religiously. The Buffalo Bills, if you watch the game today, they went for it. I can't remember where it was, but it was somewhere around midfield, and they didn't have to do that in a snow game. A lot of teams are doing this now. They're just basically going, we're better than you. We're just gonna outscore you, run, boat race you to the finish line. And D'Amico's like, look, my defense is my calling card, and I'm not doing that.
But there's a big difference there, Tom. Buffalo, Cincinnati, you got Joe Burrow who's slinging it. He didn't give a damn it was in the snow. He was slinging the ball around both teams. Whoever gets the 41st, wins. This game, your defense, Spags is putting on a show. And your defense is not allowing the Texans offense to move the ball at all. I think they had like -2 yards for the majority of the third quarter. I don't know what they ended with. And then you gift them that, like, hey, y'all struggling here.
It was three and out to start the second half. They go for it twice. They go for it again on fourth. I still didn't understand why they do it the second time. The Terminator puts pressure, got lucky. Rice dropped a wide open pass. And I just thought this was like Andy Reid being panicky, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, it's unbelievable. 3 times with the Chiefs in the last few years, he's won the Super Bowl, and he looked like he was panicking about the Texans that he's handled over the last 6 years. I mean, it sort of blew me away. And yeah, the D'Amico stuff, there was some weird stuff. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, like, what's going on with some of these coaches. I mean, we're putting guys on the field in concussion tents and checking them out. Maybe we need to put these coaches in concussion tents. I don't know, Tom.
For me, I just want some respect on D'Amico's name. I feel like he's doing a really good job. And when when we're hyper focused on the Texans, yeah, we want him to make every perfect decision. We want him to be right all the time. And when he's wrong, I have no doubt there are plenty of people to call him on it. But then when you look around the league and you see some of these other coaches, I mean, I don't know if y'all saw the Las Vegas Raiders thing, but they want him checked for gambling because he kicked the field goal with 4 seconds left to make it a 7-point game when it was an 8.5-point spread where they're down by 10. So there's a lot going on in this league, and it could be D'Amico could be better, but he could be a lot worse.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of, oh, my coach can be better, but he could be worse thing. I mean, it's like, can we just find one guy that can get some of this stuff? I mean, there's got to be coaches that can get this little stuff right. It's what, like, more disorganized offense after this. The Texans blow a timeout after the 4th down. Like, how do you not have your play ready as an offense as soon as you get on the field? How is the offense not ready? Somehow they're not ready. On 3rd down, they get a delay of game, pushing them out of a potential field goal. I don't know if they would have gone for the field goal in the cold and at that situation in the game, but that was another big thing. And really, I mean, Jayson, it's almost they catch some breaks because Stroud misses an open Christian Kirk, and I'm like, oh my God, they're leaving the door open again. But you get a big break when the future Hall of Famer Travis Kelce not just has one pass go through his hands, he has 2 passes go through his hands. And right there, Aziz, the NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, makes the interception, but 2 passes by Kelce that are dropped. The Hall of Famer drops 2 passes.
Yeah, it's time to hang it up. Had a hell of a career. I think he was targeted 5 times in this game, 1 catch for 8 yards. Gifted Aziz that interception, had the other big drop you talked about as well. There's no excuses for it. I mean, he did not show up. And when you've been playing as long as you have with Patrick Mahomes, you've always had this rare chemistry. And in this game, I mean, he looked like a shell of himself.
Yeah, I was just really surprised at some of the things that happened there late in the game. It's usually the stuff that happens against the Texans. And I'm sure Tom will go, well, that's D'Amico's great coaching. He knew Travis Kelce was going to drop both passes. Great idea to force them to get Travis Kelce open so he could drop the passes. And D'Amico, again, beautiful job of kind of making it fun for the TV guys. And let's get some delay of games and not be ready and stuff like that. Maybe the Chiefs will have another chance. D'Amico, genius, making it sort of fun for the fans, fun for the league, and still winning the game. Just brilliant stuff. But look, I mean, the Texans got some breaks this game. And, sometimes they don't get breaks, but, it's these little things that I'm like, can we not just do this? The simple stuff right. I mean, let's just get the simple stuff right. And these wins are like so much easier if you just get the stupid lining up right, not having 2 guys in motion at the same time, not being able to figure out how to use your timeouts at the end of the half, trying to get extra points. So maybe you don't need to have to panic. And I'm not sitting here with sweat stains on my shirt as the game. I mean, come on, Tom, you got to tell me a little of this stuff kind of bugs you. I mean, Tom, you did not figure that Travis Kelce was going to be dropping passes late in the game, did you? Did you have that on your bingo card?
No, absolutely not. But things happen in a game, in every game that you're not counting for. That shouldn't happen. To be honest, I'm glad you asked what I thought, because if I'm being honest, if CJ doesn't miss about 3 or 4 different throws all game long, this game isn't that close, and then you're not sweating. We talked about the touchdown. You talked about the wide open ball to I think Hutchinson in the middle, like on 3rd and whatever, wide open. He just floats it over the top of his head. You've got that one to Kirk. There was another one to Kirk where it was just like all he's got to do is put a little air under it. And I get it. He's got guys bearing down on him. Stuff happens, whatever. But if CJ makes some of these throws, half of those throws, it's probably a 27-10 game, like somebody said in the comments. And we're not talking about a D'Amico. I mean, we're always going to talk about D'Amico, right? But we're probably not talking about him nearly as much.
Hey, listen to this, Jason. Texans smashed the point spread. The FanDuel had them at 3.5-point underdogs. And I'm like, come on. The Texans are going to play this game close. It's cold. The defense, I mean, we expect a Texans game at this point to be 3 points. I could not believe that this was, and the Texans, they made it look good. I mean, they took care of the point spread by a ton in this game. And by the way, the under, you got to go with it's the Texans. You go with the under. Come on, FanDuel. Why do you keep giving us this easy money? It's easy money.
Well, yeah, and I mean, also, we all focused on the Texans coming in this game. Number one scoring defense, 16.5 points per game. But I think a lot of people forgot the Chiefs were the number 6 scoring defense, giving up like 18.3 points per game, right where the Texans were at in this. So it's always going to be set out to be a low scoring game, especially when you factor in the weather, mid-20s at night. So the game played out for the most part about the way you would expect it. Y'all were talking about y'all's little pet peeves from the games and things that kind of drive you crazy. I would say I think it's time for Texans fans, because this was driving me crazy, especially in the third quarter. Texans were up 10-7, and people talking about they're cutting off the game. And I mean, that's the rare breed, but there's other people like this is over. And then when it got tied 10-10, I saw the majority shift. This game's over. You're 10-10 in Arrowhead against maybe the greatest quarterback of all time, one of the greatest head coaches. What did you think was going to happen? You're picking apart CJ Stroud missing passes when Patrick Mahomes is 14 for 33 in this game. I got to tell you, it drove me, and I don't know if I should say this on your podcast, but damn it, I'm going to say it. Texans fans, it's time. 2025. You've had 23 years. This isn't the teams from the past. Let your nuts hang. Let them drop, because this crybaby 10-7, you're winning on the road in Arrowhead. Texans definitely losing this one. Oh, the Texans go, it's 10-10. No way the Texans come. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Geez, man. And forgive me. Maybe I shouldn't have went there, but damn, it drove me crazy. I'm like, man, let's have some backbone. You're Texans. You're from Houston. Have some faith in this team and what they've done this year. And I don't know. To me, that was driving me crazy the whole third quarter. And it's just the whimpering and the we've been here before. And the Texans always shut up. Man up. Have some faith in the team. You're playing Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Quit whimpering and being so afraid to lose. And have some faith your team's going to go out there and win.
Big props. We haven't mentioned his name probably nearly enough. Nico Collins, 4 catches, 121 yards. Stroud only threw for 203, so he was all but 80 of the passing yards through the air. The rushing attack was 31 carries for 82 yards. Still, I just got to give a hat tip to Woody Marks, because I don't know how he is with the foot issues from last week, so good on him. But let's go back a little bit to what me and Jason were talking about earlier with what's left on the table here and where the AFC is right now. I'm just going to point out that, if there is no Lamar and there is no Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and Josh Allen is a guy that the Texans can handle, it is all on the table. I mean, this is starting to break exactly the way you want it if you're the Texans. The only concern that I have, and we talk about some of the Texans injuries here and there. Look, the Texans, I think this year, knock on wood, find some wood to knock on as I say this, but we got to be honest. The Texans have gotten really lucky with their injuries. Yeah, they've lost some safeties, and there's a little bit on that end where you feel like you're a little bit light, but at the same time, we haven't lost, like a lot of teams, we haven't lost the guys that are the huge guys. The guys that are really the pillars of the Texans defense are still there. Thankfully, Stroud is back healthy after the concussion, and you want to keep him on the field because the quarterback is always a thing that you got to worry about. But, when you look at this Texans team, I mean, you've gotten through the major part of the schedule without those. And if you can get through these last few and go into the playoffs as healthy as you are right now or close to it, it's a huge deal. I mean, Jayson, that's the thing. Like a lot of times in the NFL, we talk about, oh, you need this or you need that or you need whatever. But health is like the biggest thing in every sport that we talk about. We just saw it with the Astros. We talk about the NBA, and there's just so many guys that are stars that get injured every year. And you're like, well, there went their season. Their superstar went, and it's happening all the time now in the NBA. Quarterbacks are going down nonstop. I mean, you're just like holding your breath every game. So, I mean, that's a big deal. And I think the Texans have, if they can get through this and these last few games, that's going to be the big key going in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think it's a perfect assessment, especially when you talk about having an early season bye week. You know, I mean, typically you don't want that early season bye week because that's your time, half the season or late in the season, like Carolina Panthers and New York Giants. This is the last bye week, and they just got that. That's the perfect situation. If you're in playoff contention, you hit that bye week in week 14, the last bye week, and then you're healthy and get guys back. But the Texans had it one of the earliest ones in the season. So it is surprising to see him still this healthy. I would add a caveat that I am concerned about that D tackle position. Shout out Tommy Togiai, did amazing, double-digit tackles. That being said, you're basically a three-man rotation, four if you count the Nico coming in on third down pass rushing situations like we saw today and what he's been known to do throughout his career. But you really don't have that other run stuffer there with Togiai. Like what Settle can give you some pass rush, but he's also the most stout at holding up against those double teams. And it was a puzzling move this week for me anyway, going back and watch the preseason snap on D tackles. They got three guys on the practice squad. And as international player that got promoted. I will screw up his name if I try to say it, but I think I only saw him in for two plays, and he got moved so far off the spot on both of those. You also got Marlon Davison, another former top 50 pick, but he's more like a Danico Autry that can play on the edge, play on the inside at D tackle and give you pass rush. Then you got the rookie, Junior Tafuna, and I'm probably messing up his name as well, but he showed more stout holding up against those double teams. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a pivot to him or either them going out and getting somebody, or you still got a guy on IR and PUP. Haven't heard any updates on them lately, but I think the best situation, if Foley's ready to come back from IR, that will fill a big void for the Texans there at that D tackle position. And a Kurt Hinish, if he's ready to come back from PUP, but we haven't heard any updates on these two guys. And so hopefully somebody in the media this week in the press conference will ask about those type of guys, because it's definitely an area as far as the run stuff and situation that has to have a move made there, whether it's another practice squad promotion, you try the other young guy, or one of those guys come back from injury, or you go outside the building.
By the way, Tommy Togiai, there was 2 tackles for loss in this game by the Texans, Will Anderson and Tommy Togiai. There was 1 sack by Togiai. The rest of the team had 1 sack. So Tommy Togiai was 10 tackles, 2 solos. I mean, if you look at the defensive line, he's as good as anybody. I would say Kamari Lassiter might be your defensive MVP, but Tommy Togiai is in that conversation. We talked about Nico, offensive MVP. Anything you're thinking about, Tom, before we get going, or big picture stuff?
I mean, you guys pretty much canvassed it all. This is the one time that I can think of that the AFC is absolutely wide open. I feel like the Texans are in a prime spot to be a team that nobody wants to face. That's all the national media is saying right now. They're all catching up to us and basically going, oh my God, this Texans defense is amazing. Nobody wants to face them, going down the stretch because they're so good. They're right. So, as we look at their schedule, it's softening up now. If you go and you look back at what the schedule that these guys had to play, and I mean, like, they played basically everyone in a playoff situation. The Texans found a way to play them, except for the Tennessee Titans. So, it's just it's really incredible what they've been able to do, considering the tough schedule that they had. I think, nobody had them here at this point. Nobody had them winning all of these games. So, that has to count for something. And as much as we're critical of these guys, and we should be, that has to count for something. That has to count for CJ. That has to count for Nico. That's got to count for Dare. They're still going out and winning these football games. And then as far as like the injury stuff, you're absolutely right. We've been so fortunate. Guys are losing offensive linemen left and right. And as bad as we've complained about offensive linemen, these guys are staying healthy. Well, there's not like tons of injuries on the offensive line. Knock on wood. Like we should be knocking on wood. You look at Kansas City tonight, they were missing 3 offensive linemen to start the game. They lost the backup left tackle to, the first play of the game. They're literally holding that offensive line together with bubble gum. I want to say Buffalo lost 2 offensive linemen when we played them. So, as much as those guys have kind of been hit and miss and, some of them been in and out, they're relatively healthy. I think the Tommy Togiai stuff, I love that, they brought him along slowly. So now I think he's probably primed to take on this workload that we're talking about and not miss a beat because he hasn't had to play. There's still tread on his tires where they were playing a lot of, other guys to start the season. And I'm really excited about where the Texans are at because I feel like the next 2 games are on a tee, like Robert said, we're going to talk about them in 2 weeks, winning 7 in a row. And I'm going to run out of TX whiskey. I'm going to have to go buy another bottle because I'm drinking one of these every time we win. So it's nice. A good time to be a Texans fan.
Yeah. The key is not only do you not have to face maybe Patrick Mahomes if you get into the playoffs, but you don't have to face Chris Jones and the defensive schemes. I'm sure that Ed Ingram doesn't want to see Chris Jones anymore because he had all sorts of issues. And really, Ed Ingram, we haven't said a whole lot about him this year because he's done a really good job. I mean, the PFF numbers, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, what matters is your eye test is watching. This guy's not getting beat a ton of times. This is not a Shaq Mason situation at right guard. Ursery's getting better as the weeks goes. If we can just get rid of some of these Ursery penalties, and like I said, a couple of them have been sort of garbage, so I don't want to get too on him because of that. And Trent Brown, it's been a game changer to have him and then move Titus over to left guard, and Titus has done a fantastic job with that switch. So with all that, I mean, you look at if the Texans can just handle business these next few games and get to the playoffs and get to some of these other teams, my only thing right now is just like all I want, just something really simple. Can we just not commit these dumb penalties in the red zone? Like, I don't care if Nick Caley can't figure out some sort of creative stuff for screen passes or whatever. Like, if the Texans can just not shoot themselves in the foot, not be the sheriff in an old 60s movie or 50s movie where you're taking the gun and you're accidentally blowing your foot off because you almost got the crook, and then you pick the gun out and you accidentally blow. I mean, just get the simple stuff right. That's all that's the defense is like, can you just score us a touchdown every once in a while when you get into the red zone? Can you just handle that? Can you not get, maybe knocked out of field goal range when you get in there because, of a offsides or delay a game or a illegal motion or whatever? Just do the basics. I mean, I don't know how many games into the season. Can we just do the just simple stuff? Just the basic, like when I'm watching high school football in Texas and I'm like, gee, I don't remember all these illegal motion, 2 guys in motion penalties. And trust me, I've watched 20 plus years of Texans high school football. I've watched a ton of it. And I don't see the illegal motions, guys not knowing what they're doing over there like I see with the Texans this far into a season. Like, are you kidding me? Like at this point in the season in high school, they're in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round of the playoffs. I guarantee you, I didn't see this stuff in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round of the playoffs in Texas high school football. So just get the basic stuff right. And my final thought is, I'm not going to end on negativity. We got one of the biggest wins in Texas history tonight, and it's still processing for me. I mean, I don't know about you, Jayson. It still hasn't. I don't know if it's connected to my skull yet that the Texans just beat the Chiefs. And you said it earlier. What are they now in their last? What is it? 9 games, 10 games?
10 games, 8-2.
Yeah, 8-2. It just blows me away that the Texans beat the Chiefs on national, not a Sunday at noon game. They beat the Chiefs, not at NRG Stadium. They went to Kansas City below 30 degrees against the Chiefs, a healthy, relatively healthy. Everybody's banged up now. I know his knee wasn't right. Relatively healthy Patrick Mahomes, relatively healthy Travis Kelce, definitely healthy Chris Jones. We know that guy was healthy. So, and they won. And they won. And they didn't win by 2 or 1. They won by 10. They won by 10.
Yeah, and I think the comments are hitting the nail on the head. And shout out to Brandon. You had me chuckle a little bit there. I think you got Tom too. I think you got Tom as well. It's a great comment there, and you're probably actually right there. But the last two comments talking about prime time, Robert, you talked on it. Tie it in. I want to marry it up with what Tom was talking about, where you're talking about the national media all on the Texans coming around the last couple of weeks and buying in. And what has happened in the past, guys, you know very well that when that's happened in the past, that the national media has bought in on the Texans go laying eggs. I think Texans fan base is just hype and thrilled that they're not embarrassed for once, that when all the national spotlight and hype comes on them, that you don't go lay an egg. You go embarrass Josh Allen. You go embarrass Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, both in primetime games. And I think the Texans fan base is really appreciative of that, because it does become embarrassing. Like, all right, they're hyping us up again. This is when it falls off. Last thing for me, guys, and I know the listeners, the viewers, and everybody probably know this as well, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do want to just really paint that picture of illustration of what we all saying about how open that AFC contest is. Robert, you talked about probably no Lamar Jackson, probably no Patrick Mahomes. Texans have handled Josh Allen. Let's go from the top of this AFC division and the people you'll see in the playoffs, and look at that quarterback position. Bo Nix, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, and 87-year-old Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen's what you handled, Justin Herbert.
Who you handled in the playoffs?
Yes, you handled in the playoffs. And I mean, if it's this Texans defense and CJ Stroud against their defense and their quarterbacks, I'm telling you 100%, each one of those matchups, I'm taking CJ Stroud and the Texans defense. I'm so tired of hearing about Drake May's stellar season. Go look at that schedule. After you look at their schedule, come talk to me. None of them, and one of the comments pointed it out perfectly earlier, no one in the AFC is as battle tested as the Texans. And we went through the schedule, so I won't go through it again. But when you look at the quarterback position, and that's what wins and gets you deeper in the playoffs and wins you championships, I'm taking CJ Stroud over those other guys.
No question. Yeah, no, it looks that way. Drake May, I think, in 2 or 3 years maybe, but we'll see what he does year 2 in the playoffs. Love, some of the stuff I see from Drake May, but absolutely. I mean, CJ Stroud with this defense. I just want to point that out. CJ Stroud plus the Texans defense that is so unbelievable. I just want to remind anybody that's out there listening, post our live stuff on social media. We'd love for you to post our links up there, whether you're on X or Facebook or Instagram, whatever you're on, do that for us. We would appreciate it. And make sure, if you aren't already, follow. It's at Jayson Braddock, Jason with the Y. It's at Third Coast Tom. Check him out. You can find all that stuff in the descriptions or you see it on the screen on YouTube, of course. I really want to thank everybody for joining us on the Houston Sports Talk Live Texans postgame. Want to thank our sponsor, FanDuel. Go check out FanDuel.com, the FanDuel app. As always, thanks to Jason. Thanks to Tom. Great insight. And the Texans finished the job tonight. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes, who wasn't sick, who wasn't in a coma, the Patrick Mahomes. They beat him. They beat Andy Reid. They beat the Devils, and they got the job done 20-10. Congratulations, Houston Texans, and all you fans out there. You guys deserve this one. We'll talk to you soon.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.